All right. Today's content piece is brought to you by Steve Kilberg. Steve's one of our associates. Actually, he's our longest serving associate here at Westbound Road. He's closed, I don't know how many deals, lots and lots of deals. Really knows his stuff. And one of his areas of specialty is using LinkedIn, both to find both buyers and sellers. And he's going to talk today about using LinkedIn Sales Navigator to find um, off-market deals, I believe. Is that the topic?
Yeah, it's really to find off-market deals and or like you said, Marty, it's both sides of the equation because LinkedIn is a very powerful platform, as we all know. It's kind of the business social media network, and it's really picked up in the last couple of years. I'd say the last 5 years, where these other platforms like Facebook and Instagram and of course TikTok have gotten all this other visibility, but LinkedIn's been off to the side and it's still very, very powerful because people just go there with the mindset, I'm going to do business transactions here. It's not a social network. It is a social network, but it's more related to business side. So as I got into this M&A side, I wanted to see if I could leverage this platform and just start conversations. And that's one of the hardest things as we all get into this is we just want to start a conversation. But how do you get to that spot? And so the benefit of using LinkedIn Sales Navigator is that you can send people a message and it will get to their inbox. And that's a critical feature. So there's a couple ways to use LinkedIn. You can actually try to connect with somebody. It depends if that person is active or not. I can get into that if I need to a little bit later, but I choose to use LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now it is a paid portion of LinkedIn. It used to be only $79. Now it's, I think, $99 a month. But again, if you think about this, if you get one deal out of that, that is just it's such a minor expense, even over the course of 12 months, that it's well worth it. Because what I have found is that other conversations come up out of the initial conversations. And so I'm just using it as a tool just to start the conversation. So I guess before we get started, anybody here, who is here has even used LinkedIn to use it as a lead generation source? Hey, Marty, Rick, you guys both have, okay. And have you just used the standard free version of LinkedIn, or have you used the paid version for your, let's say free or paid?
I use the Pro. I don't know. It's funny that I don't know if I use Sales Navigator or not. I'm paying LinkedIn something every month, but I don't know what I'm paying for. So maybe you can help me understand even that.
Okay, yeah, we can walk through that in a second here. Yeah, I
I
guess that's
personally, I haven't used Sales Navigator and I just use the free version of LinkedIn, but I have done a lot of like outreach to my contacts and stuff just via the in-mail message. So you can teach us a lot today, I think.
yeah. Well, that's the goal here, right? So, yeah. So with that, it's a good point, Becky. In that, for you to get a message to somebody in their inbox, you need to be connected with them. Now, you can do it if they're a second degree conversion, but then there's some nuances around that. And third degree connections don't get them. You won't be able to message those people. And there's also a limit to how many you can do that to per week. And so that's one of the downsides about the free version. I use the paid version again, as I'm going to dig into in a minute here, because there's just so many other benefits, especially when it comes to digging deep on some of the targeting. So if you think about this, if you're looking for like a manufacturing business or a SaaS business, because we deal with obviously digital businesses, you can put some parameters inside of this Sales Navigator tool, which really will refine your search down. So the best way to just show this is really just to share my screen. I'm going to walk through some things here. And let me just give me a second here while I get this organized. Of course, my screen blanked out here. 1 second. And as I'm going through this, if anybody has any questions, please just raise your hand or just ping me real quick, and we'll kind of walk through it. So this is my inside of my Sales Navigator right here, and it's kind of like any search thing you can look through. So give me an example of a keyword phrase that you would type in. Just if you're looking for a business, like Rick, you're looking for a business in what type of area? Is it manufacturing? Or is it something different?
No, it's probably more like either agency or SaaS or something like that.
Okay. Let's so a digital agency or just a traditional agency?
Preferably digital, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to type in digital agency into the search parameters here. And what's going to come up here, well, first of all, as it's now jumped me into like I'm not sure what they call this here, but this is a lead section of Sales Navigator. Now, the one benefit is it's already found me results. The downside is in the upper corner here, we got over 2 million people. Well, that is just way too many people to reach out to. And so this is where the filtering comes in, which gets really, really powerful. So the next thing I always start with is that what type of well, I'm going to do this actually. Since you said digital agency, I don't want to do by an individual person. I'm going to do it by account. And now we're looking at a business because there's definitely a difference here. So now the number dropped down because when I looked at it from a lead perspective, it's gonna list people that work in an agency, in a digital agency, who have at least identified that on social media or on LinkedIn, I should say. And now that I'm looking under the account status, the results dropped down to 160,000. So while much, much smaller, it's still way too large, right? But these are businesses that have chosen to set up their profile on LinkedIn. So the one area I always start with is here in the upper left is I want to do this under these company attributes. And I'm going to start here with the revenue size, meaning annual revenue that they've either self-reported or that LinkedIn is estimating. So if I start with like just a $500,000, let's just go up to $2 million to be more on the smaller side, because if people are looking to make their first acquisition, this is more of a reasonable level. So now that number drops, actually gets to from 160 down to 83,000. So still pretty large, but that's, it's dropping it down. The next area I would look into is the company headcount. Now, Rick, you've been looking for this. What type of headcount would you be looking for when searching for an agency?
Probably in that 1 to 10 range, nothing bigger than that at the moment.
Okay. So you can see now it went from 80,000. Now we're going to drop it. If I just click the 1 to 10, now we're down to 60,000. So we're getting closer. So we've told LinkedIn here to search for digital agencies that are between $500,000 and $2.5 million in revenue and have 1 to 10 employees. Now that's, narrowing the list down. So are you looking, the next thing I look at is like the company headquarters. Are you looking primarily in the US or are you looking outside the US?
Yeah, preferably US.
Okay, so if I just click this, so say include US, I can now, this drops down to 17,000. Now, if you want, would you want it to be specific to your geographic area or does that matter?
Not necessary, no.
Okay, perfect. But you could do that. So let's say if I want to come in here and type in Denver, Colorado, for example, because I used to live in Denver, that's obviously an option. You can pick Denver, the city, or Denver metropolitan area. And I'll just click on this real quick. That number now drops down to, well, it's still 17,000. So it's still pretty sizable. But that's, you can see here, we're starting to whittle this list down, which is really, really helpful in terms of just doing some targeting. And then you can further filter this by saying, are there a number of followers who are following these agencies?
So Steve, on that
Yeah.
geography, go back again. I think if you put in Denver and take out United States,
Oh, there we go.
I think
Thanks, Marty.
because that didn't make any sense why that would be. There's certainly not 17,000 digital marketing agencies in Denver.
Yeah,
Although,
there we go. Now we're down to 396.
There
we
you go. That
much
makes
more accurate.
right.
That makes much more sense. So if you were targeting an agency in Denver, for example, now that's much more palatable. It's still a large number, but you see there's still a sizable amount of companies that are doing at least a $500,000. Now, if you start looking over here to the right, you'll see that these people are shown, they have 6 employees. They're shown to have $500,000 to $1 million in revenue. And so if you were looking to make an acquisition, let's just use this as an example. What you can do now is just open up this particular agency. And it's already showed us that there's only 6 employees. So their listings are going to be here once my screen refreshes here. Now you see that this actually changes. It says $1 million, or was that on the other page? So this is showing all 6 employees, or we have 1 decision maker. When it's only this small amount, I typically will just look at all 6 because you never know. Sometimes people don't put the way they list their headline in there. But you can see here, you got this gentleman here, Ronald Robbins is the CEO, and you got a couple of other people here, the SEO manager, there's an account exec, another account manager, another SEO specialist, another SEO specialist. So this is clearly a digital agency. But if you were looking to make this as a potential acquisition, so you lived in Denver, you're looking to, maybe I want to acquire a digital agency. What I then do is just try to use some common sense here. It's like, who's most likely going to be able to make that decision? Well, obviously the CEO, right? So now we've narrowed it down from, we started off with millions, and now we're down to, a handful here, 390 some, and now I've got it down to a single individual. That I can open up Ronald's profile here. And what I always like to do as well is just take a little bit of a deeper look and say, okay, who is this person? It says he's got 6 years experience here at this agency, so that's a good sign. He's got some other history here, and you can, just kind of look through if he's posted anything on LinkedIn. Now, that's another key component here, which I did not add into my search parameter here, because that's one thing I found to be very helpful, is that when you're looking to reach out to people, if I further narrow this down to, let me see here, recent activities right here, and if I add, you'll see here if there, no, that's for the company. I apologize. When you go to the individual, when you get to the people here, you can actually tailor it down a little bit further to see, have they posted on LinkedIn? So if you get the company right here, and let's say there's multiple executives, I just turn this on, and it'll show me, are they even active on LinkedIn? And that's going to tell you that they're at least checking in the platform. They're going to be more inclined to, now again, the whole goal of this starting this is to have a conversation with somebody, just to initiate that conversation. So these 3 people of the 6 have at least been active on LinkedIn. And then as I dig into Ronald's profile here, you can actually see a month ago he posted something. He shared a post and commented on it. Looks like he made a video here. So now we know that he fits the parameter in terms of a digital agency. The revenue's there. He's active on LinkedIn. So this is a pretty good target. If we know he does SEO, because we've identified he's got a number of employees, what I would then do next is I would create a category. You can create these lists in LinkedIn, because you're going to start doing this as just cold outreach. You can save them into a list in LinkedIn. And then there's 2 things you can do here. You can either go to the website, there's more than 2, but you can go to their website and start searching around and seeing if you can find contact information for him there. There are some of these other plugin tools like Lemlist and a couple of others that you can actually scrape their emails. They're actually, if they have their email that they posted on their profile, you can actually scrape their email and just contact them directly. Or
Yeah,
the other
I,
thing
have one, I have one thing,
yeah,
Steve. So for the scraping emails, I use something called Sales QL. And
okay.
that goes in, you click a button and it just pulls up all their emails that they have, and you can just copy and paste it.
There you go. There's another good one. Again, there's a bunch of them out there right now. There's another one called Lion that we actually recently, business was in this kind of niche. We recently sold that a few months ago. But so the goal is that you got an email, so then you can reach out to me either offline, which is a good way. But if you don't have that, the other thing that I have found really helpful is I just click here, and oh, now this person unfortunately has turned off their communications. So that's another reason why you'd want to try to get their email, because maybe this person was getting bombarded, or just didn't want to be annoyed. Whatever the reason, they just turned it off. They've chosen to do that. But if you already have their email, you can at least try to reach out to them and start the conversation. And I'll share some scripts that I've come up with in a minute here. But you can see here, this is really not that hard to go through this, right? You're trying to just sift this stuff down into, how can I start a conversation with somebody? So let's just take a look at the next one. I just want to show you a couple of things here around people. Since that one, and these guys have only 5 employees. Let me pick at this one here. It's got 9, a little bit larger.
While you're doing that, I'd like to chime in with kind of
Please.
some thought processes about business size. So, while a smaller acquisition or a smaller business in revenue is probably going to be less expensive, and therefore that the hurdle to acquire may be perceptibly less. The reality is, a 3, 4, 5, 6 employee business is also probably going to be heavily dependent on the owner. The owner's probably operating that business. So you want to think about that. If you're looking for a business that you can acquire that you don't have to also jump in and operate, one that has more than 10 employees is more likely to have a general manager or a chief operating officer or somebody who's actually operating the business that may not be the actual owner. So it's just something to think about what you're looking for. If you're looking for a business to jump in and you're going to operate, or you're going to bolt it onto your business as an add-on, but the current owner leaves or something, yeah, less than 10 employees may be okay, and it is probably going to be a little bit less expensive to acquire. But the odds are a business that has 10 to 25 employees, which I think was the other cat, or 11 to 50 was the next one up.
Yep.
So a business with 11 to 50 employees is more likely to be a larger business with more stability, with a higher likelihood of having um, an operating system in place, operating procedures in place, probably more sophisticated financials in place, and actually would be more likely to be able to get a loan against because it's going to be much more stable. So there are drawbacks to both and benefits to both. It's completely unrelated necessarily to what we're talking about here. When you clicked that and said, well, if you're starting out, you may look at a 1 to 10, maybe not. So just throw that out there.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, Marty. I was going to try to get to that later, but it was perfect segue because again, this goes back to the power of LinkedIn. You can use these company attributes over here to sift this out. Now this number's changed to 87, right? I removed the 1 to 10, but I still have the 5 million here. I'm sorry, 500,000 is the low benchmark. Now I went up to 5 million there, but you can change this to say, let's just look from 1 to 5. Because that's going to sift this. I guarantee that list is going to go down. See, now we're down to 61. So that goes to the great point of if you don't want to get in the business and actually run it, you actually want to be the person above the business and keep the existing staff in place. This would be a much better way to do this. But you can see now you've targeted down to 61 people. It's a much more palatable a number for you to get through. And if I wanted to look at this one right here, for example, this would be a good, perfect example for what I was going to do next, actually.
They have a lot of employees for the revenue they have. They probably don't make any money.
Yeah, again, keep in mind, this is just high level stuff. It's not accurate, but you're just getting a benchmark the goal is this even in the range where I might be considering, right? Now this one's got, they're almost 40 employees. It says 8 decision makers. I've found that the revenue number is typically low. Sometimes if you see those 0 to a million or in that range, they tend to be a little bit more accurate, but you get to this level, they're a little bit larger here. So we got a vice president, we got a senior vice president, perfect. And now we've got some other decision makers here. There's art directors. So, but you can see here, there's at least a couple of people. So they've got clearly have staff to cover things where it's not the one individual owner who's running the entire place. And that's a big benefit, as Marty pointed out. Again, it's going to go back to what are your goals, right? But let's just look at this as an example here. We got Tashi Rogers, who's an SVP there. She's been there for just over a year. Again, you can always save this. And if you want to reach out to her, now see this one right here, this is going to require me to use a credit. I've got some credits built up. I actually got some bonus ones recently from LinkedIn. Sometimes you can request things and they'll do that for you. So it was a nice feature that I got that here, and I've still burned through a bunch this month. But then you just come in here, you can type a message, and again, the InMail is going to get into Tashi's email inbox. So whether she's using a Gmail, whatever, it's going to show up, and it will be, if it's Gmail, it's going to show up in the primary category. At least that's what I have found. And this goes back to now how you want to have a strong subject line. And I'm going to show some examples here in just a minute. But that's just one benefit to doing this. Now we might get the same thing here for Sam. If I go to message him, yeah, it's the same thing. What I wanted to show you here, let me find one. If there's anybody here, sometimes you're going through people, you'll see like a little gold, the LinkedIn symbol, the IN, it'll be gold. And that means that they've got a paid version of LinkedIn. So I'm going to actually give you a good example of this. I'm going to go back over here.
That's what I have, but I don't know. Maybe I have the wrong thing. Maybe I should be doing Sales Navigator.
Okay. Well, here's a perfect example. Get this guy, John, right here. See the little gold right there? He's the CEO owner of this business. I just want to show him for a second. That tells me that we know he's a paid customer. So that's also more inclined to, he's more likely going to be able to, if he's paying for it, then I'm sure he's active on the platform to some degree. And so there's a couple key things to look at here. I always look down to see, are they active on the platform? Well, 4 weeks ago, he posted something. Said, oh, we know he's active. We know he's using the paid version. So he's more likely to at least be receptive. Obviously, he's going to be busy. But if I come in here to message him, there are times, you see the difference here? It says free to open profile. He has listed his profile as open, meaning it's not going to cost you any credits. So anytime I see this person, he's a CEO or he's a decision maker in the business, and I see that he's got a paid profile, I at least always click to see if this is an open profile. And if he is, I always message him. Because the other thing that I've learned when we're trying to reach out to these business owners, especially if they're larger, is that I have no idea the conversations that are taking place. Are they actively looking to be sold and they've maybe shared, the CEO has shared that with just a couple of people at the executive level, but nobody else? We have no idea. Those hallway conversations could be taking place. And so if I have this ability to have a free access to contact him, if they're an SVP or a VP or whatever, I'm just going to still send it because even though that person is not the decision maker, but I can contact them for free. They maybe were in a meeting where somebody was talking about either making an acquisition or maybe selling. And so that person would say, I'm not the person, but you need to talk to this person. And I've had multiple people say that to me when I just reached out to them.
So to that end, Steve, we've been really aggressively pushing our
Time frame
referral
guy.
program here at Westbound Road, and we're using LinkedIn. And so far we've done about 500 or 600 contacts, I think. We're getting a pretty good response. For me, and Becky, I'd be curious if you've experienced the same thing, but I've now had 3 positive responses of referrals who've come back to me and said, yes, I have somebody I'd like to refer to you. It's my own employer. And so, yeah, they aren't decision makers, but to your point exactly, they've heard that their company is their owner is thinking about selling, and they've referred their own employer to me as a potential business up for sale. So, absolutely hit those people up.
Yeah, and especially that's such a great example, Marty, because especially when I see it's free right now. He's the
Right.
CEO and owner. We understand this, but again, he could have been a VP. I would still always reach out to him, and that has been one of the things that's really, really worked for me. So, in the essence of time, because I know we're running a little bit long here, has this been helpful so far?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Heck, I've learned a lot, and I've been working with you for a couple years now. So, Steve,
Yeah,
I know
this
you
looks really
promised
powerful.
some. Sorry, Becky, what?
I said, yeah, this looks really powerful. Really good
Sure.
stuff.
Steve, I know you promised some scripts and things like that you use. Since
Yep.
this video is going to be posted out there to the world, so hello world. Maybe we could do some sort of a special bonus, and if you want to email us or hit us on our contact form. I'm not sure what the best way to respond, Becky, but let's give them a vehicle that we can send them those scripts. Sound good?
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to chime in and just to add a little bit about that, Marty, was that I've been playing around, obviously, with artificial intelligence and then just my own kind of creativity. And I've come up with a few different scripts, and I've been pleasantly surprised at the responses I get. Because again, the goal is I want them to reply and for either to extend that conversation or to start a conversation. That's the entire goal of an email, obviously. And I've been really surprised, quite frankly.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. That was awesome and super, super informative and valuable.